Hello, welcome to another video. Today's video is going to be everything that you need to know about House of Earth and Blood. So this is going to be full of spoilers. If you have not read the book, if you don't want to hear spoilers, turn this video off. If you could like and subscribe, that'd be fantastic. Thank you so much. But come back when you're happy to hear spoilers. I will be basically going through everything that happens in the book from the points of various characters. So I'm going to be leaping all over the plot, going backwards and forwards. And I will also be basically spoiling things and also be potentially theorising for a few things as well. I will have a House of Sky and Breath spoiler video coming in a couple of weeks' time. But for now, let's try and start everything you need to know about House of Earth and Blood. So first of all, let's start off with the kind of a vague timeline here. So we follow Bryce. She is our main character. She is, at the start of the book, she is best friends with a wolf shifter called Danica. Danica is basically the head of the wolf ox. They are kind of like basically the police in this world. Bryce, by the way, is half human, half fae. These two are like really good friends. They are known for being kind of party girls. They drink a lot. They do a lot of drugs. They sleep with a lot of people. Danica and her wolf pack, who are known as the Pack of Devils. So like they've basically always been around Bryce as well. She's kind of like an honorary member, except she doesn't do any of the like police fighting stuff. But they have just kind of managed to arrest Philip Briggs. Philip Briggs is a human who is thought to be a leader of like the rebels who are trying to overthrow the main like Asteri who basically rule this world. I'm just going to move Bella onto my lap. At the start of this one, they had arrested Philip Briggs, but they find out that he's going to be released on a technicality. So the wolves are basically having a kind of like pack night in. They're watching films, they're eating pizzas, they're drinking a few beers. Bryce goes out. She goes out on a date with this guy that she's been seeing. He's awful. She dumps him, and she finally messages Connor, who is one of the wolves, and says, yes, I will go out with you. Connor has been bugging her for years and trying to persuade her for years that they are meant to be together. And Bryce has always been kind of saying no, not because she doesn't fancy him, but just she doesn't want that kind of whole wolf mating intenseness. I don't know if intenseness is a word. Intensity. So Bryce goes out. She has a wild night, drinks a lot, takes a lot of drugs, comes back completely out of it, doesn't really entirely know how she gets home. And when she gets back, the front door to their flat is open. And she's like, what the fuck? She goes inside and everybody is dead. All of, like Danica, all of the wolves, they are not only just dead, they are ripped apart in small piles. Bryce is obviously in serious shock. She then sees a demon leave the apartment. She chases this demon down, thinking that she can kill it. Literally with like a wooden table leg that she ripped off a table. She's chasing this demon down the street. She catches up to it and it is attacking and basically eating an angel. Angels are, I guess, like the detectives and like the leaders of this, like the political leaders of this city. They are above the wolves, like the ox kind of like police level, but they also are in charge of making sure that all of the law is kind of like kept. They're not on the ground, but they are in charge of making sure that like the laws are kept and like the real bad criminals are sorted. So she finds this demon attacking this angel. She manages to kind of call for help. She then basically goes into complete shock, and we then kind of catch up with her 2 years later, where these attacks have started again. Because they have started again, the angels want to find out this murderer super quickly. So they assign Hunt Athalar, who is a kind of like pro-demon hunter, to look into this case with Bryce. They've asked Bryce for her help because she knows Danica's last movements the most. So I said, you know, if you could help out with this, that'd be grand, thanks. We then, I'm going to kind of just actually leave the plot there, and we'll get more into it as we go through. But I'm going to basically go through everything that you need to know in terms of different characters. Like I said, I am jumping all over the plot, but that's your kind of backstory, your basis. So we're starting off with Bryce. And one of the first scenes, like I said, that I think is really important with Bryce and to kind of like for us to know about Bryce is when she is helping that angel. She is there literally trying to save this angel's life. She doesn't know who it is. She has been attacked by this demon. She's literally drugged to the eyeballs. She can barely see. She is like so high. She's just seen that all of her friends have been ripped apart, and she is still there trying to help this complete stranger, which I think says a lot about Bryce as her character. And also, I do feel like friendship is a really, really big part of Bryce's character. So the next scene that I want to mention is we get a couple of flashback scenes throughout the book to this specific scene where Bryce and Danica were on a motorbike and it had crashed. We don't really know at this point, so we're like 250 pages in, which sounds like a huge amount, but honestly this book is big and quite slow. We don't really know what happened, what like the specifics from this scene was, but we know that like Bryce is there with Danica, and it's the first time that Danica tells Bryce that she loves her. They are the closest best friends, you know, there's nothing romantic here in this relationship. It is a purely platonic best friend relationship, and this is the first time that Danica has sort of like acknowledged that. Which I think is fantastic. And again, then the next bit that I want to kind of mention with Bryce and her friendships. So just taking a step back with it, when we flashed forward those 2 years, and now Bryce is looking into this case with Hunt. For these past 2 years, Bryce has been an absolute shadow of herself. She has lost contact with her friends. Obviously, she's lost Danica and the Pack of Devils. Her other two friends are Juniper and, this is Bella here, Juniper and Fury. Bella, please move your whiskers. She's not spoken to Fury for the last 2 years. Juniper, she kind of does speak to every now and then, but they don't really see each other very often. And Bryce has got, it's not mentioned on page, but she's seriously depressed. There is a scene where, and again, it's a flashback scene, where Juniper has kind of come to get her, and because Bryce was standing on a roof contemplating jumping, you know, this is how serious she has been, but she's completely closed herself off. So we're now sort of, again, 250, pages into the book. And the human rebels, who we heard about earlier, the group that Danica tried to close down, have blown up a nightclub where Bryce is. When the bomb exploded, Bryce jumped on top of Juniper to save her. Now, Juniper is furious about this because she has made the drop. So the drop is when the Vanir in this world make the drop, it basically means that they kind of come into their magic. They can heal better, their aging slows down. Bryce hasn't done this, and she is part human. So if Bryce gets injured in this bomb, she is probably dead. If Juniper gets injured, she will be healed. She will heal herself. But Bryce didn't think of that. She jumped on top of Juniper. And like I said, Juniper's furious about this because Bryce put herself in danger. But for Bryce, she basically says, I can't lose another friend. You know, she's says, you know, she cannot lose somebody else. And I just think that is so important, with that kind of like understanding how important friends and friendships are to Bryce. So we've then got probably one of my favourite things about Bryce. Now, Bryce is badass and she's just brilliant. And I'm going to read a little quote from Bryce. So this is Bryce talking. She calls him an alpha hole. An alpha what? Alpha hole. Possessive and aggressive. She waved a hand at his bare torso. You know, you males who rip your shirt off at the slightest provocation. who know how to kill people in 20 different ways, who have females falling over themselves to be with you. And when you finally bang one, you go full on mating frenzy with her, refusing to let another male look at or talk to her, deciding what and when she needs to eat, what she should wear, when she sees her friends. What the fuck are you talking about? Your favourite hobbies are brooding, fighting and roaring. You've perfected about 30 different types of snarls and growls. You've got a cable of hot friends, and the moment one of you mates, the others fall like dominoes too, and God's help you when you all start having babies. And I just think, first of all, iconic. Secondly, we have all met an alpha hole. Like, we all know those men. But I love how she, like, Hunt is this seriously terrifying, like, private assassin angel, and she's just like laying into him and ripping him a new one, and I love it. Yeah. Hunt is technically a slave. Mika, who is the archangel of the districts, like basically the head honcho, Mika owns Hunt, and he uses Hunt as his private assassin. And he has this deal with Hunt that if Hunt can repay all of the deaths that he caused when he rebelled, so the reason he's a slave is he rebelled about 200 years ago. If he repays all of those deaths with deaths of Mika's choosing, Mika will set him free. So that's about 2,500 people that Hunt has got to kill on Mika's command. And obviously Hunt does not like this. Like, this really is difficult for him. But a scene that I absolutely love is Hunt is given the order to go and kill somebody. He does it. He comes back to Bryce's apartment. He thinks she's in bed asleep. And he is sat there on the shower floor with like the water, like literally boiling hot water on him. And after an hour, Bryce sneaks in. Bryce basically goes in and is like, come on, right, I need to help you. And she turns the water off because he's having this water burn him and heals himself, and it burns him again and he heals himself. Hunt cleans him, puts him, like, gets him dressed, puts him to bed. And again, this is a platonic friendship at this moment. They both kind of fancy each other, but nothing has happened. It is just a way of Bryce kind of showing her love for her friends, which I just love it so much. We then get into the darker, shadier parts. So while Bryce and Hunt are looking into this, like, criminal activity around who this murderer is who killed Danica and is starting to murder other people, they discover that it might be linked to a drug. And they find out that this drug deals happen down on the river, which is kind of like owned by the Mer people. And she gets a message from one of the Mer saying that there is a drug deal going down tonight. Bryce doesn't think anything else of it. She doesn't tell Hunt what she's doing. She doesn't tell anybody that she's going. She just leaves and she goes down there. She joins Tharian, the merman, and they go to kind of like see who it is that is dealing these drugs and who it is that is buying these drugs. Because they figure that one of those two people is the murderer. However, they get there, they see this deal happen, and it turns out that the person that they see there accepting being the buyer is Hunt. Now this is like serious shock, you know, like honestly when I first read this I was like throw book across the room, shock here. But Hunt is buying this drug, and Bryce is just completely distraught by this. She feels so just like he has completely betrayed her, and she is so upset by this. Mika, who again, like I said, is Hunt's owner, who is like the head of this city, he also has been alerted to this deal. He has found Hunt plus two other ex-slaves, so Victoria, who is a wraith, and Justinian, who is another angel. He arrests the three of them. He then, and again I'm going to get into like kind of what he does with them in a minute in Hunt's part. But he arrests the three of them and he sells Hunt to Sandriel. Sandriel used to own Hunt, and she hates him. So in like 200 years ago when they rebelled, the leader of the rebellion was Shahar, who was Sandriel's twin sister. Shahar was also Hunt's lover, and Hunt helped. Basically, Shahar and Sandriel kind of like fought to the death, but Sandriel hates Hunt for the fact that the part that he played in Shahar's death, even though it was Sandriel who actually like murdered her. And she is like seriously dark and twisted. So he has been sold back to her. We're then going to skip on a few sections, and we get to towards the end, so about 670 pages in. This book is just shy of 800 pages. The summit is happening. So the summit is where all of the heads of the city get together and they can discuss sort of, you know, important city things, you know, like what needs to happen, what buildings need to be built, blah, blah, blah. All kind of like boring politics stuff. Mika is kind of, you know, heading up this summit, but he goes back to the city. This summit is happening like 5 hours outside of the city, but Mika goes back for a day. He said he's got something urgent he needs to do. The urgent thing that he needs to do involves speaking to Bryce. So while everybody else, again, like all of the city heads, most of like the kind of like Ogs, the police force basically is at this summit. Or at least all of like the strongest ones, you know, every single city head has brought like their top people with them. Bryce has called Jessica, who is her boss, who is at this summit, and has basically is getting Jessica to hack into the cameras at the gallery to see what the fuck Mika is doing. And Bryce is terrified. She texts a few times being like, help me, please send someone, like help me, I'm scared. So Mika is there at the gallery, terrifying Bryce. And while he's talking to her, he explains that Bryce's tattoo that is down her back, that she got a couple of weeks before Danica died, when with Danica, they were both very drunk, and Danica chose this tattoo to go on Bryce's back that says, through love, all is possible, which is like a saying that is throughout the book, is one of Danica's favourite sayings. Through love, all is possible, and honestly, love it. But Mika explains that that tattoo is made from the ground up parts of Luna's horn. So we've had this murder mystery plotline going. There's also been a second plotline, and I will get into more detail on this one in a minute, which is the search for Luna's horn. So Mika says that that it is in Bryce's back. She is now Luna's horn. And if you put power into the horn, you can basically open a portal to another world. Possibly hell, but also possibly any other world. And Mika does this. He basically attacks Bryce with a load of power. First of all, he injects her with synth, this drug that Hunt was arrested for dealing, which gives her extra like strength and powers. He then blows all this power into her back. Nothing happens. So Bryce tries to get away. She and Leheba, who I will get to, they manage to shut Mika in like a bathroom door, like a bathroom down in like the library in the gallery. Bryce gets upstairs. She assembles this Godslayer's rifle, which is basically something that is a rifle that can kill a god. Like most veneer will heal from any like injury that you give them. But she assembles the rifle and she shoots Mika with it. She shoots and kills him. She then, in the most iconic thing ever, after she shoots him, she burns the corpse. Well, she first of all chops up the corpse, then she burns the corpse, and then she hoovers up the ash. Not only has she killed the Archangel, which like literally slows down time, it is such a big event, she has hoovered him up. But they all thought that Mika putting the power into Luna's horn in Bryce's back, that actually didn't work, that no portals were opened. However, after she's finished, hoovering, Bryce kind of goes like, hang on, where are the police? Like, we called for these ages ago. Opens the door and realises, oh right, that's a problem. Every single gate in the city, and there are 7 city gates, they have all become portals to hell, and there are demons running riot in the streets. So, yeah, things are a bit shit. So what Bryce does then is she basically stocks herself up with weapons. She goes like full on, I don't know, Lara Croft, like Terminator almost. She stocks herself up with weapons and she runs out into the streets and starts killing demons. She is trying to get people to safety, and the area that she heads to is the human areas, Asphodel Meadows, where all of the humans live, because they do not have powers to help fight off these demons. They do not have the money to be able to afford like real expensive like safety elements, or like shelters or anything. So she runs there and she is constantly calling for backup, but there is no backup to be sent. Plus the heads of the Arcslag, which is basically the Fae and the Wolves, who are currently at this conference 5 hours away, they've basically both pretty much said, no, our fighters need to protect our own. So there's nobody to look at people. We then get another one of these flashbacks to that motorbike scene that I mentioned about 20 minutes ago. And we now see like that little bit extra, which is what Bryce does. She's told Danica to close her eyes, told her that she loves her, told her to close her eyes. Bryce then summons this light from inside her, which is the Starborn Fae light. So her brother, Rune, is known as the Chosen One. He's the Starborn Prince, and he can kind of summon like a small, tiny flame. Bryce summons so much light from her heart that she blinds these basically people who, after this motorcycle crash, were trying to kill her and Danica, and she can then shoot them and kill them all. This is something that she has hidden from everybody because she is the Autumn King's daughter, but she is not acknowledged and she is pretending to be just another Fae. If she told people that she had this Starborn power, she would pretty much be potentially overthrowing Rune as the next in line to the throne. Bryce doesn't want that. She doesn't want to do that to Rune. So she's not told anybody about this power. Her mum knows, but that's it. So we kind of see her there with this Starborn power. She then, Hunt kind of like appears. So basically at this point, there's been like a bomb dropped on the city to try and kill the demons. Hunt has like jumped in and tried to, as it has appeared that he's managed to like get out of the summit and get there, and is trying to save Bryce, but he is mortally wounded. Bryce realises that with this Starborn power, she's closed one gate, but with this power she could close all of the rest. However, she's out of energy. She needs to make the drop. So when you make the drop, as a veneer, you basically fall into your own energy, and you need somebody anchoring you, because you then need to bring yourself back up out of your energy. If you don't have an anchor, likelihood is you will never be able to get back to life. So effectively you fall into your energy, your mortal body dies, you have got about 5 minutes to bring yourself back to life. And not everybody makes it. So Danica and Bryce were going to be each other's anchors, and they were going to make the drop together. But obviously Danica has now died. So Bryce needs to make the drop. So she is there trying to find somebody to anchor her, but there is not a single person left in the city. People are either dead or are in the shelters. So while she's there calling out for anybody to help her, to just anchor her, a voice comes through the speaker. So all of the gates are connected by like speakers. And a voice comes through, and it's Danica's from the Bone Quarter, the kind of afterworld. We know Danica is dead. She is dead. We have seen the body. And this is just her voice. She is like, it's her spirit who basically is telling Bryce Go for it. I will be your anchor. So Bryce does it. She falls into her power, but she is currently drawing on the power of the gates, which is this huge, millions of people have fed power into this city, into these gates. So Bryce falls and falls and falls and falls. Back at the summit, everybody is watching this drop, and they can see how much power she is getting and what's going to happen. And throughout them, you know, the people are all talking, and the Autumn King is there, and he's going, she's going to die. She doesn't have an anchor. A dead person cannot be an anchor. She has got nobody to bring her back. Plus, her actual real power is negligible. She has fallen into more power than the Autumn King, who is one of the most powerful people on this planet. She can't get back up. So they're all there waiting to see what's going to happen. When Bryce made the drop, she managed to close all of the gates, kill all of the demons, and heal everybody in the city. It's slightly far-fetched, but you know, that's how things work here. So Hunt is there trying to do like chest compressions, trying to keep Bryce alive while she is trying to return from the drop. We see her journey through the drop where she is speaking to Danica, and she's like, I'm not going back. I'm staying here with you. And Danica's like, absolutely no, you're not. You're going back up there. It's very emotional. So Bryce does manage to make the one and is trying to get back up towards life. Hunt is trying to keep it together, to keep her going. And we get there. She survives. Through love, all is possible. Let's all cry together. It is absolutely incredible. We then get to right at the very end. So I'm on page 788 of the 798 page book here. Bryce has got home. She and Hunt are alive. They're okay. She's called her mum. And then she gets a phone call. And it is from one of the Asteri, like I said, who are the leaders of this whole planet. And this Asteri, Regulus, basically says to her, I know what you did. You killed an archangel. That shouldn't be possible. So, you know. He says, right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to free Hunt. He is no longer a slave. And you're not going to tell anybody about anything that's happened here. Never. And we'll let you live quietly. So he pretty much threatens them that, you know, as long as they stay quiet, they'll let them live. Which is where we pretty much finish, at least we finish Bryce's part of the story. I am now going to go back to the beginning, and I'm going to talk to you about Hunt. So, Hunt Athalar is our other main character in this book. Hunt is a fallen angel. So about 200 years prior to the start of House of Earth and Blood, there was a Angels' rebellion. The Angels basically wanted to overthrow the Asteri, because they didn't feel like this group of 7 all-powerful beings ruling everything in the world. Basically, everybody in this planet is effectively a slave to the Asteri. They didn't want to be part of that. The angels that rebelled were Shahir, who is an archangel, who's kind of like the head of the angels, literally one step below the Asteri. Hunt was her general. So Hunt was there at this massive battle where they lost. Shahir was killed by her sister Sandriel, who's also an archangel. So then Hunt and the other angels who were involved in the rebellion were made into slaves. They have 0 rights. They are slaves. They have 0 rights. They can be bought, sold, traded, treated however you want. They have literally no rights, no nothing. So then, like I said, as we're going to start on in this book, we've got Danica has died. We've seen, you know, how that's happened. 2 years later, the murders have started happening again. And Mika wants Bryce to investigate them, and he is pairing her up with Hunt, because again, he is like a master demon slayer. that is pretty much what Hunt has been used for the last however many years. Like I was saying earlier, he has got this deal with Mika where if he can kill someone for Mika to atone for every single person that died in the rebellion, then Mika will allow him to be set free. Which is really difficult for Hunt. Hunt is not like comfortable with that because, you know, he is literally repaying death with death. He already feels guilty about the thousands of people that died in the rebellion anyway, but now having to murder more people basically on Mika's whim. They're people that Mika just wants dead rather than people who necessarily were like bad people. Like we don't know what they've done. We're getting sort of like, we're about halfway through the book at this point. Bryce and Hunt are looking into everything. I'm looking into the investigation, and that is when a Crystallos demon attacks them. So they think this Crystallos demon is what has been killing people, and it attacks Hunt. It appears and it attacks Hunt, and it like nearly kills him. Bryce manages to shoot it. She manages to grab a gun off like Hunt. He's always packing, and she shoots it, and they manage to kill it. But it has injected this venom from his bite into Hunt, and that venom basically nullifies any magic. So Hunt was unable to fight this off other than with his own brute strength because his magic was gone. So this is really important because this kind of tells us a little bit about how the Crystallos demon, like a bit more basic about this demon and like how it has been killing people. So, you know, at this point we're thinking, right, well, that's how it destroyed the Pack of Devils and Danica, because it nullified their magic. They wouldn't have been able to shift because it would have destroyed them. We've spoken about the shower scene. Again, kind of just for me shows, from Hunt's point of view, it kind of shows just how much he hates this deal that he has with Mika, but it is the only thing that he is working towards. And Mika has offered him a new deal as well. If he can solve this mystery before the summit, so he's given Hunt a month, he will lower Hunt's amount of deaths down to 10. It's currently at, like I said, 2,000 odd, and he'll lower it to 10. So Hunt's really involved. There was another key point with Hunt. So Hunt attacked a wolf because the wolves blame Bryce for what happened to Danica and the Pack of Devils. They've been basically bullying her. They've been calling her trash. And Hunt attacked one of these wolves for sending basically like bullying messages to Bryce. Because he is a slave, he has no rights. The head of the wolves has gone to Mika and demanded kind of like retribution. Mika has kind of gone, as in fairness, as kind as he can, and said that he will give Hunt the living death, which is he will cut his wings off. Because Hunt has zero rights, you know, the other option was actual death, and he would kill him for attacking a full citizen who is not a slave. So at this point in time, Hunt has got no wings. His wings have been cut off, and he is, again, basically back at Bryce's house. They are healing. They do have a little bit of a sexy scene. They don't actually sleep together, but they start like having a little bit of fun. But Bryce kind of accidentally, in her throes of passion, pushes Hunt back against the couch, which opens up all of his wounds, and she's like, oh, fuck you, I can't touch you. Like, oh my God, you're literally dying. You have got no wings. So when Bryce goes down to the river for this river deal, she doesn't even think about talking to Hunt, because he is, again, like on painkilling meds. He has no wings. He's incredibly unwell. So seeing him there is just shocking, and like I said, such a betrayal. Hunt claims that he was trying to stop the deal, that he did not want any part of this, that he was trying to stop it, and he was only there to try and stop Justinian and Vic. Nevertheless, he is arrested. With Justinian and Victoria, they are tortured and killed, except Victoria is a wraith. Her essence is pulled out of her body. and she is dropped in a box into the like deepest trench at the bottom of the ocean, so she will never see the light of day again and just slowly go insane. Horrible. Justinian is crucified. He is left to die on a cross, I think, and is there rotting in the entranceway to like the Angels' headquarters for about another week. It's awful. Hunt kind of has been got off lightly by being sold to Sandriel. None of it's good, but that's what happened. We're then jumping forward to the summit. So at the summit, again, Hunt is a slave. He is being kept by Sandriel. She is basically displaying him for people, displaying this, like that she now owns him and he is less than nothing. But while with there, she's kind of like holding him with her powers, so he can't even talk, but he's really trying to like fight through it and trying to kind of like get people to help Bryce while this video of Bryce being attacked by Miko is happening. In the fallout of all of that and the demon attacks, and while everybody is scrambling, trying to work out like, oh my god, what the fuck's happening, we have Hypaxia, who is the witch queen. She's the new queen of the witches, and she goes up to Hunt and she sneakily, quietly, with nobody noticing, removes his slave tattoo. The slave tattoo across his forehead is like a crown of thorns, and that basically mutes his power. So he has a minute amount of his power compared to if he didn't have that crown of thorns. So no one's kind of really noticed that Hypaxia's done this, and I think Rune has noticed, and he's purposely drawn attention elsewhere so that she can like basically carry on and like finish the spell. Sandriel comes back into the room and pretty much declares herself in charge and is like, Mika's dead, I'm in charge, everybody has to do what I say, you're all fucking slaves. Hunt has now got his full power. He goes up to Sandriel and he kills her. He rips her head off her shoulders. And again, this woman has tortured him for years. So we're kind of like, yeah, go Hunt. But also it's kind of like, oh, geez, man. But so he has killed another archangel. That's 2 archangels dead within about 20 minutes. And like I said, these things don't happen. These beings are hard to kill. And also nobody should be able to kill them. So we then, like I said, at the end, we have got the Asteri who call Bryce. They have now released Hunt from his slave tattoos. He is no longer a slave. He is a full, free citizen. Obviously, it comes with a catch. Right, we're going to go back to the beginning again, and I'm going to talk through everything from Danika's perspective. I sometimes call her Danika, I sometimes call her Danica. I don't entirely know how to pronounce her name. I make it up every time. But Danica, like I said, is the head of the wolves and the wolf pack, the pack of devils. She is a very, very powerful wolf shifter, and she is kind of like primed to be the next head of the wolf pack entirely over her mother, who understandably is not happy about that. Her mother is Sabine, and again she is currently kind of trying to like run the wolf pack because the prime of the wolves, who is Danica's grandfather, is very, very old. Basically is like pretty kind of decrepit, and like barely wakes up, doesn't really know what's going on anywhere. But he has given Danica the sword. I can't remember what the sword is called, but he's given her his old sword and is like kind of like tapping her to be the next prime. So at this beginning, and again we're back in the past, everybody is around at Bryce and Danica's house for like pizza and film, and it's mentioned that Danica had a second job at this human technology company. This technology company kind of like deals with technology and drugs and kind of like is just developmental things on like I said, on drugs and on different like kinds of technology, but it's run by humans. It's one of the few that is run by humans, which is just kind of an important piece like to remember. we've then got a couple bits on a bit of background on Danica. And like I said, she is a really, really important character who we find out so much more about as the story progresses, and particularly in book 2 as well. We find out a lot about her. So we're told that Danica has spent countless hours looking into the bloodlines of the dominant shifter packs in other cities. Why lions came to rule in one place, why tigers oversaw another place. Whether the dominance that determined the prime alpha passed through families or skipped around. And again, like she's done a lot of research into this, but she's never really told Bryce anything much about it. She's also been asked to look into the disappearance of Luna's horn, which was stolen a couple of weeks before this whole event of like, you know, this pizza party when everything's happening. Like I said, Danica unfortunately gets murdered, and it is Sabine, Danica's mum, as a suspect of who murdered Danica and who's like summoning these demons. They kind of threaten her. Bad move. And she then comes up and basically says that she was protecting Danica. It was Danica that stole Luna's horn, which again is super important because this horn has been missing. Everybody's currently looking for it. Everybody's been looking for it for the last 2 years. So we don't know why she stole the horn. We don't know what she's done with it, where it is. We know nothing about this, but her mum is claiming that Danica stole the horn. Then the next thing that comes up is the drug deal. So before the drug deal where Hunt is discovered to be dealing, the buyer, Hunt and Bryce have gone to the river, met Tharian, who is one of the merfolk. And Tharian has said that drug deals did happen on the river and that he knew who was selling this synth, this drug. And he said that the person that was buying this drug was Danica. So again, this raises so many questions because like, what is she doing? Was she buying that to get it off the streets? In which case, what? Was she taking it? Like, why did she buy this drug? And so Bryce still is like, no, like that, she's my best friend. Like, she'd have told me if she was taking any other drugs. Like, this wouldn't have happened. It's not like that. As we jump further on, we find that Danica has secretly managed to has like hidden in the back of a jacket that Bryce now owns, a flash drive that has got files from Redno Industries, where she worked, the human technological company, that has basically got trials of this drug synth on people. And in these trials, people basically take a drug and they rip themselves and other people apart. So we're then kind of coming to the conclusion that Danica and the Pack of Devils were killed by somebody who was on synth because they were ripped apart into a like pile. As we get to about here, 600-page mark, and this is after the drug deal has gone down, and Hunt is now kind of like explaining to Bryce why he's done it and like why he wanted to back out the deal, but why they had originally made this deal to like try and get this in. He explained that actually like the drug gives people basically superpowers, but you then kind of go too far and you rip yourself apart. And he said that Danica had taken synth on the night that she had died. She had been taking synth to kind of like give herself extra powers while she was on the streets, and she took too much. It wasn't that she was murdered. She killed the Pack of Devils and she ripped herself apart and killed herself. This obviously like massively breaks Bryce's heart because this is her best friend. Like she is known her, you know, she's known for years and she never knew this about her. I think that is about it in terms of like the important Danica points. So we're going back to the beginning again. And we're going to talk about the overall plot. So like I've been saying, there are two kind of like plot lines going through here. There is the murder mystery and there is the mystery of like the missing Luna's horn. I'm going to come to Luna's horn in a minute. But the kind of like the first plot we're looking at is basically who killed Danica, how did the Pack of Devils die, And like I said, also kind of who stole this horn. Philip Briggs is a kind of key character here. Actually, before we get to Philip Briggs, like I said, so Mika has decided that because Bryce knew Danica best, he wants her to look into it, to look into like the murderer. We've then got this human who is Philip Briggs, which I can't find in my tab for him now. He was thought to be behind a lot of the murders because he is, like I said, like a human rebel who was who's like arrested in because he's about to blow up a club and kill hundreds of people. Hunt and Bryce do manage to get Philip Briggs, like, not released, but they get to interview him. He is like brought from the main prisons to Crescent City, and they speak to him. He hasn't realised how long he's been in the dungeons for. It's been 2 years, and he was like, wait, what? Like, it's been longer than that, surely. He's not far off going completely insane, like tortured into insanity. But he says that he always respected Danica. She gave him multiple chances. He didn't kill her. He thought she was one of the good guys, and actually she was possibly a rebel sympathiser. Which again, Bryce is like, no, she wasn't. Like, what are you talking about? Hold that thought. Like I said, we get more of these kills coming through. More people are dying. We don't know how it's happening. No demons and no people are being shown on camera. We don't know who is behind these murders at this point. As we get towards the end, we realise that actually what's happened is that synth, this drug, has leaked onto the streets. When people take synth, they tend to accidentally summon a Christos demon, which is the demon that they thought was behind the murders. This goes out and kind of like does this killing spree that with the bodies that they are finding, and every now and then they find a ripped up body of somebody who took the synth themselves. So there isn't actually a murderer, it is just a very dangerous drug. The other kind of like plot line and murder mystery side is the Luna's Horn. So Luna's Horn is an ancient Fae artifact. It's broken in half, but it is thought to, when it worked, it was thought to be able to, I think, open like a door to another world, and potentially kill people, kill demons, kill the Asteri potentially. But it was, like I said, it was broken thousands of years ago, and it could only ever have been used by a starborn Fae, of which the only one known in existence at this point is Rune, who doesn't really have very much power. So Luna's Horn was stolen a few weeks before Danica died. She was looking into it. Now 2 years later, Rune has been asked to look into it by his father. His father has kind of been like slightly teased by Mika. Mika's kind of gone like, Fae don't really have much power. It's not like when you had Luna's Horn. And his father, the Autumn King, has gone, I'm going to find Luna's Horn. Now this is basically a ploy from Mika. Mika wants the horn because if he can have the horn plus a starborn Fae, which he has worked out that Bryce is, then he can open a door to another realm. And again, it's key piece of information there. As we know, the horn has actually been ground up, put into Bryce's tattoo, which does not say through love all is possible. It was written in like a random language, and Bryce is like, oh yeah, that's what it means. It doesn't actually say that. It is in fact a spell for opening a door to another realm. So when Mika attacks Bryce and the gates are opened and the demons come through, basically that is how because like the horn has now been healed and functional on her back in this tattoo. And yeah, like I said, like the demon gates are opened. Mika wasn't necessarily meaning to open a portal to hell, but that's what he did by accident. And when Bryce then makes the drop basically pulls on the power of that horn and also all of the gates. So she gets so much more power than she is necessarily entitled to. I've only got a few extra points to go through now. Next one I wanted to mention was the Star Sword. So the Star Sword is a sword that is known as part of, it's like only for the Starborn Fae, aka Rune. We are told that there was a matching knife that has been missing for Minelia. If you've read ACOTAR, you might recognise the knife that is missing. But this sword, like I said, can only be used by Starborn Fae, and if they put their Starborn powers into it, it basically, I don't know, like kills extra people. I'm not entirely sure what it does, but it's quite important because it's thought to be the pair to Azrael in Crescent City's, no, in ACOTAR's knife. So the Starborn Star Sword is like quite important to be aware of. As we get to the end and we realise that Bryce is also Starborn and she can also handle the sword, she could actually be, be more powerful using that sword. The other thing that I think is important with this is the reason that Rune has been asked to look for Luna's horn is the Star Sword, Starborn Fae and Luna's horn are all kind of linked. So Rune has thought that he could potentially try to find the horn because of the fact that he is a Starborn Fae. And at the end, he says that, whenever he was trying to find the horn, it was always telling him to go to Bryce. And he just thought that meant go to the library. Like, she lives in this like ancient library. She'll know, she works in this ancient library. She'll know there'll be answers there, rather than actually go to Bryce, because Bryce is the horn. Also wanted to mention Sandriel. She has got a Triari, which is basically angels that are under her that are kind of like her, well, in her case, her torturers. The important ones that we need to know are the Hammer, the Hind, and Evil. Like, he is the one who tortures Hunt. The Hind, we don't meet in this one. She is mentioned, but she is one of Sandriel's kind of like top people. She does come up in book 2, and so again, it's like just important to be aware that she does exist. The next character I wanted to speak about is Lehaba. So Lehaba is a fire sprite that looks after the library of, like Jessica's library. She is, again, a slave. So the sprites also rebelled along with the angels. So all of the sprites in all existence are now slaves. Whereas the angels, it was just the people that rebelled became slaves. Every single sprite and every single sprite's descendant has become a slave, which is really horrible. It's put in here, it's one of the most spectacularly fucked episodes in the Republic's history. So Lehaba is basically sort of like their kind of, she's pretty much Bryce's best friend at this moment. She spends a lot of time with Bryce because she is there at the gallery where Bryce works. Along with, and I don't think I've mentioned him, along with Syrinx, who is Bryce's pet chimera. She bought Syrinx off Jessica because Jessica was going to give him away to someone and Bryce didn't want him to, so she's bought him. And Lehaba has kind of said, like, well, could you buy me as well and like set me free? And Bryce has said, I can't afford that. So they are super close. Lehaba is sassy. She is just one of the best characters. One of her favourite things to do is watch TV. Her favourite show is known as Fangs and Bangs. It's like a smutty vampire show, I kind of think, where there's basically a lot of sex happening. Kind of makes me think of like the Vampire Diaries, but slightly more adult, maybe with a bit of like True Blood mixed in there. So when Lehaber meets Hunt Athalar, she decides that his new name is Athi and just kind of like nicknames him that. She's like, why aren't you with him? He's so handsome. She's just an absolute sweetheart. As we get towards the end, this is where I cry. When Mika has come to attack Bryce, they've locked him in like literally the toilet. And there is, in the library, there is this wall-length tank that has got this like horrible knock, this like demon creature in it. Lehaber is terrified of that because again, she's a fire sprite. If she gets wet, she dies. So Lehaber knows that like she can't, that Bryce isn't going to be able to get, like someone needs to stall Mika because he's going to get through that door and Bryce is not going to survive him again. So Lehaber offers to sacrifice herself. Bryce is saying no. She's, she then also says that she has bought Lehaber's freedom. She's got the papers and she was going to throw Lehaber a party to kind of celebrate the fact that she is now free. Lehaber says that she knew this. She says how she will always love Bryce, and she then honestly makes me cry. Even after reading this book like 3 or 4 times, I still like sobbed at this. Bryce manages to run out and Lehaber is throwing herself at this like weak point of this massive like tank, saying, I am a descendant of Rathia Dral, Queen of Embers. She is with me now and I am not afraid. My friends are behind me and I will protect them. It's so sad. It's so sad. Basically she carries on to it, like trying to break this tank. And again, everybody's watching the live stream of this at the summit. Every single member of the summit stands up and salutes this tiny little sprite. I'm going to start crying. But Lehaber manages, as Mika gets out of the bathroom, Lehaber manages to crack this, like break open this tank. She dies instantly. That's like hundreds and thousands of gallons of water. Like it's not going to kill Mika, but it will slow him down. It gives Bryce a chance to build together the rifle that can, the God Slayer rifle that can kill Mika. Even so, it is the saddest thing in this whole book, and this book makes me cry a lot. But Lehaber literally is just iconic and the saddest thing. So the next character I want to talk about is Ethan. So Ethan is Connor's younger brother. Connor is one of the pack of devils. He is the one that Bryce was going to be with. She was one that she thought that like Ethan would be basically endgame for her. So that Connor would be endgame for her. And Ethan was his little brother, and him and Bryce had this kind of like almost like sibling relationship. They were kind of like besties, but in a purely platonic like sibling kind of dynamic, I guess. After the Pack of Devils dies and it comes out that when they were being ripped to shreds, Bryce was drunk on drugs and having sex in the bathroom at this club, Ethan basically cuts ties. He's upset and he's distraught and he cuts ties with Bryce. And that's the reason as well why the wolves are still like bullying Bryce to this day. So when Hunt and Bryce go to the wolf pack to accuse Sabine of murdering Danica, whatever, they cross paths with Ethan, and Bryce is just sort of like, you used to be my best friend, I used to tease you and like would snuggle, and now we can't even talk to each other. Ethan's still angry, but he kind of is more just like upset of like almost like of what he's lost. We then see Ethan again right at the very end, 720 pages into this 800-page book, when Bryce is there in the demons have come through. Bryce is there in the human quarter and is basically trying to get help. She's sort of telling the Fae and the wolves at the summit, send your packs here, like send help, like these humans have nothing, you know, there are children here, there are babies here, we need people to protect them. And Sabine says no, there's no wolf packs that can go, there are no wolf packs there, like they are protecting the wolves. Ethan, however, is kind of like also tapped in on this call. He is there in Crescent City. And Ethan says, I'm coming. I will be there. This bit makes me cry as well. So Sabine bellows at Ethan, you are disobeying a direct order. Ethan hangs up on her and Ethan gets there. So, oh my God, I'm going to start crying. So Ethan runs to Bryce's side to save her and to protect the humans, to protect the weak, to protect the innocent. And it is so, so sad. Like, it's so heartwarming, but it is so sad. This scene, honestly, is just like, oh. So we've got this bit, and I'm going to try and read this without crying. The wolves could be at the meadows in 3 minutes. 3 minutes through hell, through the slaughter and death. 3 minutes in a flat-out run, a sprint to save the most defenceless among them, the human children. The jackals joined them, the coyotes, the wild dogs and common dogs, the hyenas and dingoes, the foxes. It was who they were. It was who they'd always been. Defenders of those who could not protect themselves. Defenders of the small and the young. Shifter or true animal, that truth lay etched in the soul of every canine. And it makes me cry, okay? It makes me cry. But Ethan does become a really important character in book 2, but is honestly just such like a sweetie. And just, Ethan. I just love him. The last one I'm going to speak about is one of the demons, Adus. So Adus, we don't meet until quite far on when Bryce actually summons him. He is the prince, or one of the like main princes of hell. There are 7 circles of hell, and he is prince number 5. So fairly like high up, low down, like important in the realms of hell. But Adus is basically speaking like, it turns out that Adus has spoken to Bryce before. After she had gone to see the oracle, like all Fae children do, the oracle kicked her out. Bryce had blinded the oracle and kicked her out. Bryce was there crying, and Adus appeared to her. She didn't know who he was at that point. He appeared to her as a cat and was saying that, you know, no one should ever see your tears. So he now appears to her as an adult when she has summoned him. And he's again asking this kind of cryptic question, what blinds an oracle? And again, this is like a foreshadowing hint to the fact that she is starborn and has a starborn light in her. So she is asking who killed Danica, and Adus doesn't know. He's like, I nothing to do with hell, nothing to do with me, I don't know. And again, Bryce is like, no, it's a demon that killed her. Like, of course you're going to know. But again, you know, we don't know necessarily what he knows about it. Adus also speaks about the different dimensions and about how hell is its own world. And that Luna's horn, when it opens up dimensions, it doesn't necessarily just open a gate to hell. It could open a gate to any world in a multiverse. So again, it's an important kind of point when you kind of think about where this series is progressing, and we have the Sarah J. Maas multiverse. At the very, very end, in the very last chapter, we have Adus, it's in the epilogue, we have Adus and Jessica, who is Bryce's boss, sat on a bench talking to each other. And Jessica's like, well, why didn't you tell me about Bryce, that she was starborn? And Adus is like, I didn't trust you. He also mentions Athila's father, who we don't know who it is. Hunt himself has said that he doesn't know who his dad is. He only ever had a mother. And again, like at this point, Jesper has also mentioned something about, don't fuck us over this time, Adis. I do not plan to. Making us kind of think that Jesper and Adis have got some form of plan. They are going to be working together in some way. We don't know what or how. So that is all of the important characters that I wanted to mention. There are just two more things, I promise, just two more things that I wanted to kind of say, which are kind of my theories that I've picked up from House of Earth and Blood that potentially could be important in House of Flame and Shadow. I have no idea. The first one is, right, the 4 houses of Midgard. So we've got House of Earth and Blood, that is about shifters, humans, witches, ordinary animals, and a few others. And House of Earth and Blood focuses on Danica, a shifter, and Bryce, who is half human. Bryce doesn't claim Earth and Blood as her house, but I feel like House of Earth and Blood is about those two kind of like people, shifters and humans. Sky and Breath, book 2. In Sky and Breath there are the angels, the fae, the elementals, sprites. Sky and Breath is Hunt's book, which we're focusing a lot on Hunt and Bryce is now kind of like claimed as more of the fae. She's claimed Sky and Breath as her house so that she's always been able to have protection from the Autumn King, but we focus a lot more on the angels and the fae in Sky and Breath. So we know book 3 is called House of Flame and Shadow. In House of Flame and Shadow, there are the Domenici, Reapers, Wraiths, Vampires, Draci, Dragons, Necromancers, and many wicked and unnamed things, including Jessica Rogar. She was a witch, Earth and Blood, who basically left the witches, calls herself a sorceress, and claims House of Flame and Shadow. Which makes me think, like, who are we going to be following in Flame and Shadow? My theories are, is Jessica going to become a really key character? Is the Viper Queen, who also is part of Flame and Shadow, is she going to become a key character? Or potentially Fury Axetar, who is one of Bryce's friends, who's like an assassin and nobody knows what house she is like associated with. So could she be part of Flame and Shadow as well? And I just think that might just be interesting because we don't know what the book is going to be about, or like who it's going to be following, or why it's called Flame and Shadow. And if there is a book 4, which I assume there probably will be, I'm guessing it's going to be House of Many Waters. Anyway, that's my first thing. My other thought was, in this book, that the book is split into parts. So part 1, can you see that? It's called The Hollow. Part 2 is the trench. Part 3 is the canyon. I can't remember how many parts there are in this one. I think there are 4 parts. I think it goes down to the ravine. But each of these parts are one of the circles of hell. So I don't know how far this goes into the series because I've not yet reread Sky and Breath. But is this something to do with like what the Princes of Hell are? Like how much darker each part gets or something? I don't know. I feel like it's important, but I don't know what the important part would be, like how it's important. But yeah, that's the only other thing that I think is important to be aware of. So that is my very, very long everything you need to know about House of Earth and Blood. Hopefully you have found that, if not helpful, a little bit interesting, and maybe, yeah, it's a little bit helpful to be able to like be ready for Flame and Shadow. I will have a similar video for House of Sky and Breath coming in a couple of weeks. I might slightly change the format, I haven't decided yet. But if you like this video, please leave me a like, subscribe down below, leave me a world emoji, or like a fae emoji or a wolf emoji. Leave me an emoji that makes you think of House of Earth and Blood down in the comments. I'm going to go and get a drink of water. See you next time.